And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, April 25th, 2020. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Very
Wonderful.
amazing.
Brilliant.
Doing good.
I love
Very
seeing you
good.
guys.
Very good. Thank you.
Huge crowd to start with. It's awesome, but we are officially open for business.
There it goes.
And
It's
Rocco?
live.
Okay, you're back.
yes, Joshua. Okay.
No, you just like.
Yeah, you froze for a second there, Rocco.
Okay.
Oh, it wasn't my imagination.
I'm
Good.
sorry, my randomness.
Okay. So if I freeze during this show, there may be an internet problem on my end. I'm not sure. I did call Comcast earlier about some issues, so we'll see. So we'll see if we can make it through this without having many issues. But anyway, we had an open week this week for a distro challenge, so we didn't do anything basically, and that was nice for a change. But just to recap some of the changes in case you didn't catch last week's episode, we are changing the distro challenge around so that it's less about going down a list and asking everybody, because it kind of makes people feel like they have to try the distro challenge. If they don't feel comfortable joining. So we're kind of moving to a scenario where we still will try certain distros, but it won't be where we go down a list of everybody and how did you like it and how did you like it and how did you like it. It'll just be, that may be a topic the following week. So with that said, there was an obscure release this week of a Linux distribution, plural. And so we are going to, I have a few topics that I want to talk about this week. And some of that may have to do with Ubuntu. I mean, all of it may have to do with Ubuntu. I'm not sure yet. But for the distro challenge this coming week, we are going to start with the Ubuntus. And I have a schedule kind of planned out. So tentatively, it's not set in stone. But this week, we're going to try out Ubuntu 2004. The following week will be Ubuntu Mate. And we'll just go week by week with Kubuntu, Ubuntu, Budgie, Ubuntu Studio, and maybe even the DDE remix and the Cinnamon remix. Now, with that said, again, it won't be we try Ubuntu out and next Saturday we're going to all come here and we're going to go down the list. It's, if you want to talk about it, you want to talk about it. Obviously, people will want to talk about it because it is what it is, but there won't be no pressure to talk about it. And that will also give us more time to talk about whatever we come up with. Hopefully Linux-related topics, but yeah, whatever we want with. So, anyway, that's the deal. Ubuntu 2004 this week, because obviously it came out. And just so happens that we have Alan Pope and Martin Wimpers here this week to talk about it.
That was convenient.
Right?
Smart.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, give me your top things on the release of Ubuntu. Like, give me your favorite thing that's in it that you like.
So there's one thing that we've talked about a lot, ZFS on desktop install. It's experimental, but it doesn't feel like it's much right now. I mean, it's big because it's a default. One of the options in the default installer is you can have ZFS, but it sets us on a path. And if people install with ZFS, there's the possibility in the future that additional features built around ZFS, like what is ZFS good at? Taking snapshots, maybe having backups of your system made more easily, maybe restoring files from backup, like that kind of stuff that's been super easy on other operating systems that normal users want to be able to do, like backup and restore files. That kind of stuff, it sets us on a path to be able to do that really easily and reliably and robustly and quickly. And that's probably my number one big thing. But as well as that, the theme. I love LBRY.
right?
If I had to have two things, if you're pushing me, and I had
You're
to have
only
two
allowed
things,
one,
then-
dude.
Oh, okay. Then it's the way ZFS looks on 2004.
Yeah, there you
then.
go. Martin, do you got something like favorite that you like about this release?
Just one thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll sneakily get in the theme, but that's not the thing I'm going to talk about.
No.
Always breaking the rules.
No.
So I think I was on your show in November time when I took over from Will Cook leading the desktop team, and you asked me about what did desktop Linux need to do to succeed, and I said, well, the thing we need to do is we need to have more devices in shops, on websites, available for people to purchase. That it wasn't about marketing and advertising campaigns. It was about availability of hardware that was easy for people to buy. So to that end, the one thing that I think was most important this release is all of the work we did to satisfy our OEM partners, that as a result will lead to more Ubuntu devices preloaded, pre-installed on hardware later this year. So for me, that's the most important thing that we did. Now, that sounds all very corporate and boring, but then the flip side of that is there was a whole heap of work that we did there that is useful to everyday Linux users. So, everyone gets to benefit from all of these incremental improvements as well.
Yep. Well, I think that goes a long way, or I should say it'll go a long way in the long run for helping people and helping people, use Linux. So yeah, that is awesome. I love it. All right. So I do have a couple email things and that I want to cover, but seeing as how we're already on Ubuntu, we're just going to continue on with that theme for now. So, obviously 2004 is out. Why are we getting news on 2010? Like, why is that happening here? So
People just
because of the
jumped the
name.
gun.
we got a name, dude.
Yeah, there's a story there.
Yeah,
yes,
tell me.
We have got a name. The name, the name, seems frivolous, but actually we can't start work on the next version of Ubuntu until we have a name and the archive gets open. There's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen. In fact, I thought I understood what all of the bits were that had to happen until I was directly involved with it on Friday. And it's a many page long document of things that need to happen, within the project in order for the new, the next new release to sort of spring into life. So yes, having a name as soon as possible means we get more weeks to work on the next release. So yeah, we made a suggestion to Mark in order to hurry the process along, and therefore the Groovy Gorilla came into being the day after the Focal Fossa was released.
I love the name. Absolutely love it. I think it's one of the best names that have been out so far. So yeah, but that's like,
Yeah, I think it's a good name. I think it's a name that will conjure up lots of creativity in the community with artwork and what have you. So I'm looking forward to, the wallpapers and what have you that people create throughout this cycle.
Yep.
From your
Really,
lighting, are
you're-
you hoping it's going to end up being like Grape Ape?
Great, babe.
I was going for aubergine, but I haven't got the hue quite right.
All right. Anybody have anything they want to bring up about Ubuntu that they, tried this week or whatever? Because yeah, obviously we'll be trying it this week and we'll talk about it next week. But if you have any early thoughts on it, you're more than welcome to jump in.
You
Yeah,
want to pitch it,
I
Leo?
installed it all.
Okay.
Leo, go ahead.
I actually tested the cinnamon.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I installed Ubuntu proper, the beta, and I had some issues with it. I think it was mostly with just my video card kind of stuttered a little bit on some of the animations, and I'm on Kubuntu now. So I've just gone whole hog. I'm in 2004 land, and I've been for 2-3 weeks now, and it's pretty fantastic. So first thoughts, I love it.
Nice. Dan Kelly?
I tried the cinnamon version this week.
Yeah, what'd you think of it, dude?
And do you want me to get the list?
Well, we're here to talk, so if you want to get a list out, dude, do it.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm scared.
Here we go.
I'm scared.
Oh, no, it was blame Bill for this. He's the one that threw it out on Telegram, and I bit like a hungry fish. The first thing is I when I put the installed USB in it, when I made the install USB, the Linux Mint tool didn't work, so I used Etcher. Etcher works. It comes with Cinnamon 4.4.8, the same thing that LMDE comes with. The installation media, when you're learning it from the USB, it asks you right up front, to select your printer, and then it searches for your printer, and then it brings up the drivers for it. And if they're proprietary, it asks you if you'd like to agree to it and install it. So I did. And then the message box went away, and it continued on its merry way installing the stuff, or going to its boot up rather. The first thing I noticed after I got onto a live desktop is the menu icon on the panel is completely missing. You have to take your mouse all the way over to the left side, right on the edge of the panel, and you'll find the menu by clicking on it. If you right click on it, you can play with the settings and actually select some other icon out of the blue from whatever they got. I use some kind of checkered board to put a placeholder there. In the software center, I only get two software centers. I get one particular one, looks like the GNOME one, and the Synaptics package manager. And when I went to the regular GNOME-like one, it says updates at the top, and it said 1. I clicked on it, and it said that it wanted to install my Logitech identifier receiver. And then when I went and did that, it failed, and then my keyboard would no longer work. So I'm sitting here because I had no idea what was going on. I had the batteries out of the keyboard and checking them, and finally figured out one side, because I didn't even know it was the keyboard receiver that needed to be pulled out and stuck back in to make it work. So that's kind of what I did with that. The Synaptic package manager is kind of nice. It gives you an information box when you start it up with all the stuff that explains what it is. I thought that was really cool. I haven't seen that really on any other distro that I've tested, or I've overlooked it. The distro does not come with Snapcore installed, because I tried after I installed software with the other installers, and they just went the regular apt way, I guess, because they didn't go in as snaps, because I kept typing snap list, and there was nothing there, and it said to do this and you'll get hello world. So when I did my first snap I installed was VLC, then it first installed Snapcore, and then it installed VLC. Audio settings, I had this issue that you could not shut down the computer. You actually went to the menu and you selected the button to go bring up the box with suspend and shut down and all that in it. You'd click shut down, and the computer would like log out and log back in. And what I did to get around, I also had issues with audio settings not sticking either. You'd set your audio up to all your devices and stuff like that, and when you restarted the computer, they would not stick. And I think this might be due to the shutdown not working properly and the computer not powering off. It comes with Nemo 4.4.2. I could not get the Steam to install for if my life depended on it for some reason. I went to the installation, the software center, and found the Steam installer, and I installed that and hit the launch button, and it wouldn't launch. I tried Steam from the command line. I tried everything I could think of, but I couldn't get it to work. And then I'd found someone in the comments for that particular app that also said he couldn't get it to work either on this version of Ubuntu. Other than that, that's my rundown on it. I think when you use this, you should have a box that says break-in period required, because nothing stays the same until you cycle it on and off a few times. And then everything seems to be, right where you need it. Because I was having trouble with icons on the panel that were moving around that were fixed. And after that, they stopped doing that. And it settled down. And I installed the POV audio control center, the mixer, so you can set up your stuff with that. And somewhere in there, me putting that in and fixing the missing snap core part, everything started working properly again.
May I have a moment to have a chat with Joshua?
Yes.
Hey, Joshua, this is your first release, right?
Our first long-term service.
Right. So I remember what this felt like 5 years ago when I started Ubuntu Mate. So you can listen to everything that Dan's just listed off there, and you can figure out how you're going to prioritize and fix that. But don't get demoralized, right? This is a long road you're on here, and you've got some strong foundations to build upon.
Yeah, and this could be mainly a lot to do with my hardware too. It seems to produce a lot of weird things with all kinds of different distros.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I was thinking that maybe something was wrong with your download, because I didn't understand it. I haven't seen any issues with that, but I'll have to play debug games.
Well, on SourceForge, I thought I downloaded the minimal, but it gave me the desktop, and I could not find a hash download for that. All the hash downloads were for minimal.
There should be one. I'll go check right now.
Martin, you can continue, dude.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I really wanted to, explain to Joshua that the very first release of Ubuntu Mate was frankly a bit crap. You cobble together the bare essentials of the desktop, and you think you're kind of done, and then you find out actually it takes another 4 years to really turn that into something that's quite polished and refined, because there's an awful lot of details that you need to work your way through. So the very first version of Ubuntu was called Warty Warthog for good reason, because everyone knew that first release was going to also be a little bit rough around the edges, despite the number of capable people that were responsible for its creation. So Joshua, take heart. You're doing good work. You have got, a long road ahead of you, but you've got lots of people around you. I'm in your Telegram group, and I see, David helping you among many others. I've got some ideas about how to fix that Steam issue. I think I know what's going on there and how we can resolve that. And this is part and parcel of. So one of my frustrations when I was first starting on Ubuntu Mate is having to reverse engineer and create things in Ubuntu Mate that I was building on my own computer that the canonical build infrastructure just does for you. So there will be things that,
Go ahead.
Dan, hold on for 1 second. Let him finish.
Yeah.
Yes.
There will be things that the canonical build infrastructure does for you automatically that you probably don't realize is going on. For example, in the case of Steam, the multi-lib architecture is enabled by default in the builds. And that's something that, unless you know the details of how that's done, and I'll share that with you after the fact on Telegram, you probably don't realize is something that you need to do. So this is where getting in as an official flavor is beneficial, because an awful lot of extra work will happen for you, and you get to benefit from the work of everyone else that's working on the Ubuntu project to help you along as well. So I just want to say, well done, congratulations on following all the milestones all the way through that 2004 cycle and putting out a release. I look forward to the continued success of your project.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Wimpy. And
It's
we'll
a
always continue
usable
to follow that
distro.
milestone.
Well, I think also, Joshua, you also have a lot of people out there looking for what you're giving. There are a lot of people out there who are cinnamon people and want that Ubuntu cinnamon. So you also have that behind you as well. So, all right. Anybody else have anything Ubuntu related they want to bring up? MC?
Yeah, I've been running Ubuntu Mate since before the beta, and unfortunately, Wimpy, all I can tell you is I haven't had any issues on my main desktop with it whatsoever.
I can fix that for you. If you install Arch Linux, you can get the experience you're looking for.
And then on a second laptop last night, I went and installed Ubuntu proper 2004, and again, I did not have any issues with it. I'm still in the process of setting up different programming things with it, but neither of them are what I call Linux laptops like a System 76, but it's a Dell. This is what a Dell XPS 8910 is my main desktop computer, and the laptop I installed Ubuntu proper on last night is a Huawei MateBook 10 Pro. So, and I've not had any problems with Ubuntu in any way, shape, or form. I've installed some snaps on them. I've installed, gone through different, installing different things from the repositories. Actually had to install the Optimus Mate thing for the for Ubuntu proper, because that laptop has both NVIDIA graphics and Intel graphics. Work perfectly. So I'm very happy with this. And to be honest, I think it looks really, really good. It looks really sharp.
I like your choice of words for how it looks. I'm glad you think it looks sharp. That's what we were going for. You're talking about the Mate Optimus stuff. If you're on GNOME and you have a hybrid system, if you just use NVIDIA settings to put it in on-demand mode, and you have to reboot after you've done that. But once you've restarted, within GNOME, you can right-click on the dock or the app grid, and you'll see an option launch on a dedicated GPU. So by default, it will render the desktop on the Intel IGP, but then you can right-click on your games or your video editors or OBS, whatever it might be, and tell it, I want this process to run with the dedicated GPU. So I appreciate that you know about the thing that I wrote like 6 months ago, and it does do a good job, but it's not quite as elegant as what the GNOME developers came up with.
But yeah, I mean, because it wasn't working straight out of the box. I actually had to go track down. I remember hearing somebody talking about it, so I had to go track it down and found it and installed it. And after I rebooted and was able to tell, because it was running the NVIDIA graphics at first, and they were running hot. And so after switching it back to the Intel, it runs nice and cool without any issues. So.
All right. Eris, you wanted to say something?
Yes. So I installed all the distros. I went and installed in different partitions.
Wait, every one of them?
Yeah, the flavors. Yeah. And I did notice something really weird with the main Ubuntu. On my hardware, when I go to the live session with the USB, I do not have ability to input anything into any application. I can go in the search and search for things in GNOME Shell, but if I try to type anything on the terminal and open a text editor, it doesn't work. I don't know what that's about.
Wow.
So I did notice that if I log out and log back in, it works. But if I don't do that, I can't type anything. Because usually what I do is I watch a video while I install it, and I couldn't do it. So I logged out, logged back in, and it was fine. I did restart the live session, the whole thing, the computer, just to see if it did the same thing, and it still did it. So I'm not sure what the problem is with that. Also with I think Ubuntu, there's like flickering for me, and I get like the high contrast icons instead of the default icons you're supposed to get. And I did the same thing. I logged out and logged back in, and then the icons went back to normal.
That's
every
on the
other
live
flavor
CD?
that never did that. Yeah, on the live USB.
All right, Barbara.
Okay, I just want to say to Martin that I've been running 2004 Mate since the beta, and I have not had one problem. And I run it, I put it on, well, what I did was I did a fresh install on it, and then I have my home directory is on another drive, and it installed perfectly, and it's been running perfectly. I haven't had any errors yet.
I'm delighted to hear that, and we can all thank Bill for his hard work and diligence with his QA testing in Ubuntu Mate, because without Bill leading the rest of the testing and QA, we wouldn't have put out 2 quality releases back to back, 1910 and 2004.
Yeah,
so
it was great.
Thanks to Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
There he is.
All right, Tony. Distro Hopper, not Distro Hopper's Digest, the other Tony, the other Distro Hopper.
Yeah, I'm running 2004 budget at the moment, and it's working fine. But it struck me when Dan mentioned about having an update for his receiver, messing up his keyboard. I had that problem in 1910, but in 2004, it wanted to update a receiver again of mine, and I'm using a different keyboard, but it's still a Logitech. And I thought, it can't surely want to update this, it's too new. But I couldn't resist clicking the button, so I tried it anyway, hoping it wouldn't mess it up. This time, it worked, but it wasn't for the keyboard, it was for the mouse.
Okay.
So,
but you didn't have no problems with it
this time. No, it installed, the mouse continued to work. I didn't have to unplug a receiver or anything. It worked, and then it went away. It didn't keep bugging me saying that you need to do this update. That's a positive thing. I just wanted to mention that based on my experience previously.
I had that same issue, Tony, and mine updated the firmware, no problem also.
Must
Yeah,
install default single click.
It must be.
I'll always do single click, definitely. Yeah, there's no other thing to do, is there?
There we go. We're going to move on from that one. Thomas, you wanted to say something?
So I upgraded to 2004 the day of the release. I actually, other than a few little niggles, have had it perfectly fine so far. And those niggles, though, for some people, they may be small niggles. For me, they're slightly larger niggles. The first big issue I had...
Please stop saying niggles.
Okay, then. Whatever. So the first issue I had was... so I did my update on CLI because I knew if I tried to do it through the GUI updater that it would fail, because I did that upgrading from 1604 to... No, wait, not from 1604. From 1904 to 1910. And so I just did it on the command line, and when my computer locked, the screen went black and I could not get back in. I could not get a GUI other than my mouse, period.
Can I ask how you did it via the command line?
I went into etc. apt and
right, that's your failure. That's not the way to upgrade Ubuntu. That's exactly why the update manager and do release upgrade disable the lock screen is to prevent you shooting yourself in the foot, which is what you did.
Right. Well, it ended up working out fine in the end, thankfully, though. Like I realized that's not really the correct way to do it.
Right.
And I know
I'm just saying that so that
why.
people don't think that this is the
Yeah.
way to upgrade your system, because if people do that, then they end up with a system that's half upgraded and broken. And we do have documentation that very specifically says, don't do that.
Yeah,
The reason I did
there's
that-
only one
Go ahead.
person that gets support when they go and ninja their app sources.list file and upgrade, with their pants on the outside of their trousers. And the one person that gets support when that goes wrong is Mark Shuttleworth, and everyone else is supposed to do it the right way with the tools that we provide.
Well, the reason I do it specifically that way is last time I did an upgrade and it failed like that, I figured it was because I have a number of PPAs on my system. And some of those PPAs had support for the latest release, some of them did not. So I have to like manually go in and figure out which ones have release support, which ones do not, and fix that, which I'm perfectly fine with that. Not a big deal.
Isn't it why the standard upgrade path automatically disables all the PPAs?
Yes, that's part of it. Yes, it's so the do release upgrade, which is the command line tool, and update manager, which is the GUI tool. They have over the years grown. We call them quirks, to work around situations that people get themselves in, and that those situations could be having a boatload of PPAs on their system, or missing certain critical packages, or not having updated their system prior to doing the upgrade to the new release. And I'm not like pointing the finger at you at all, Thomas. It's it's a common thing. It's one of those expert mode upgrades that people do to like just ninja the sources.list and then do an upgrade. But this is exactly why those two tools exist, is because there's things that can break your system if you do it that way.
Right. Well,
And
it ended up working out. Go ahead.
If you've done multiple upgrades over many releases, I only learned this this week, but if you've done upgrades, so this machine I'm on now, I think I originally installed with something like 17.10, and it's been bounced all the way through. There's a utility called Ubuntu Security Status, which at first glance sounds like something that's going to tell you about the security status of your machine, which it does. And it's all to do with, how long your distribution is supported for, whether you've got ESM turned on, that sort of thing. But it also tells you packages that you've got installed that are no longer getting updates because maybe you installed them from a PPA, or maybe you installed them in the past and they're not in the archive anymore. And you can use that tool to actually list all of the now unavailable packages and go and hoover up your system and clean up after the fact to make sure that everything on your system is actually something that's getting security updates as well. So that's a good tool to check out every so often, particularly after upgrades.
Sorry to divert you, Thomas. Carry on.
You're good. Well, I was able to finish out in a TTY my upgrade. Not a big deal. And during the upgrade, after that whole locking issue, the only other issues I had were it threw an error that the IDE I had and FileZilla, for some odd reason, it wasn't able to upgrade them because some package was needing to be installed and it couldn't install them. So I just purged them and told it to continue installation or upgrading. Worked perfectly fine.
Did you get these from a PPA by any chance?
They're in the main repositories. Genie, the IDE I use, I did have a PPA, or I do have a PPA for it.
Right.
So that might have been part of it, and I think that might have been
Could be.
what the issue was.
Yeah, could be.
FileZilla, I'm pretty sure, was from the main repositories. But yeah, once I purged them and the upgrade completed, I was able to reinstall them, and thankfully my configuration was recognized. My monospace font wasn't there anymore. I was using Courier, I think it was, and that was not, it was set to none. I have no idea. Okay, whatever. Easy fix in the settings. The only issue I noticed that really miffed me was there was an app I had installed, Get Kraken. It was not from the repositories. It wasn't as a snap. It was as the deb that they themselves distribute. And it was no longer installed and I had not purged it. I think it was because I did sudo apt dist upgrade, which, if I'm not mistaken, tells app that it can uninstall packages if it needs to. And I think that's what happened. Like, there was some sort of conflict and that did it.
I can explain exactly what happened here.
Okay, please do.
And also explain exactly why snaps exist. So first of all, Git Kraken publish a snap of Git Kraken. If you had the snap of Git Kraken installed, you wouldn't have experienced any of this. The reason why Git Kraken got uninstalled is because we've deprecated Python 2. And the reason we've deprecated Python 2 is because Python 2 support expires this year. And the deb that Git Kraken publish on their website, which is what you had installed, has a dependency on Python 2. So that package now has an unsatisfiable package, so it gets removed. That's what happened during your upgrade.
Okay, I didn't realize that it used Python 2, but now that I know that,
Technically it doesn't. It's just a weird like artifact of like people creating debs in a third-party ecosystem when they, they don't necessarily track, Ubuntu and Linux desktop developments closely, so they just include stuff that they think they need, and you get this kind of fallout from time to time.
Yeah. Well, now that I know this, I'll switch to the snap. Not a big deal. Yeah. Otherwise, on my laptop itself, those are the only issues. My server, I upgraded the day later, and Pi-hole decided that it was done with life. Sorry. Pi-hole decided it was done with life, and it refused to restart. I think I had to. There was something when I did the reboot after the upgrade completed. For some odd reason, I think Pi-hole didn't launch by default. And when you have Pi-hole running on your computer, if I'm not mistaken, it could have been just the way I had it configured. Pi-hole configures the system so that the system itself references your Pi-hole. So it's like a loop device. So because it didn't launch, I didn't have internet connectivity, so I had to edit my resolve conf and fix that. I think it's working now. I don't know. Hopefully. Everything else was fine. I had to fiddle with Mindtest a little bit, but
I mean, besides these 14,000 things, everything else was fine.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. I love it. It's great. and they're all small things. The things that some people may not know how to deal with them, but I do. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, it's mostly just a sudo app install. Done. So I'm not mad about having to remove packages or anything like that. They all picked up my configuration. I was happy. It's always a good day when you remove a package and have to reinstall it and you want your old configuration and the configuration is there. So.
I get the impression that you wire up your computer a little bit like a 1950s Christmas tree. Like it just any bulb could pop at any moment.
It can sometimes, yes.
Hey, Thomas, I updated mine to the 2004 server also for my Pi-hole, but I just nuke and wiped and then reinstalled it.
I had so much other stuff running on my server, which I'll talk about later because I know we're going to be talking about stuff we self-host. But I didn't want to redo all that. So
All right, Larry Johnson, you've been had your hand up for a while. What's going on?
Hey, nice to be here. Just want to say I've been on Ubuntu Mate for about 3 weeks and don't really want to talk about the software stuff, but I want to talk about the community and how I've been going to the community for 2 or 3 weeks here and watching the community. And it's really great. They've got a great community there. Watching people interact and watching how Bill gets all over it. Just want to thank Bill for his hard work. That's it.
Agreed. All right, Joshua, you have your hand up, sir.
Hello. So I'm not gonna talk about Ubuntu Simon, but I'm just gonna talk about Ubuntu itself. As in the physical GNOME desktop and how I played around with it. After going through a whole desktop expedition and after all that I've learned, I decided I'll just stick with my home, and I like the Ubuntu spin with the GNOME shell desktop and its pre-installed extensions. So I made an install script on my backup, so when I got onto the desktop and when everything was installed, it would basically just install everything I needed. And I decided, how about to save time and maximize my GNOME experience and maybe even find new software? Let's install every single GNOME application. And yes, that is installing everything GNOME asterisk. And it was pretty interesting, actually. I found new apps. Also has a great way to find bugs and applications and get other crashes. So nice bug testing tool. They're not really major. They're just things that pop up for no reason. But otherwise, I personally like the customization. The dark mode theme now is a really great big touch to everything. It really shows the whole entire new perspective you get. The login screen and the whole entire Yaru theme, especially with the blur on the lock screen, that also makes it better. But of course, the Yaru theme and all this has evolved from 18.10, but from just jumping to 18.04 to 20.04, there's been a lot of new stuff that's been added, and it definitely lived up to its hype. And I still need to do some customization with it, but that and the possibilities are just endless. It's perfect.
I do want to go back to the upgrade thing for a minute. Wimpy, like I have to upgrade Dad's computer from 1804 to 2004, so that's going to go flawless, right? I have no problems with that.
It's going to be fine.
Okay. There we go. That's all I needed.
I
You're
upgraded
referring to the green
my
edition,
machine.
right? Because your dad runs the green edition.
He runs Ubuntu Mate, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, just follow the correct update path and you'll be great.
Okay, dig it. Because that's going to happen very soon. So, all right.
However, it is worth saying.
Yes.
We intentionally there's a dialog box that pops up that says, "Hey, there's a new release. Do you want to upgrade?" And we intentionally don't show that to users immediately. So there's a lot of people who manually force upgraded via very interesting means, as we've learned today, force upgraded to 2004 from either 1804 or 1910, but we don't do the pop-up. We don't offer it as an upgrade until later in the year, so that those people who are a bit more conservative and who want to hold back can wait and get the crazy people, us, to try the stuff out first and iron out all those bugs beforehand.
Yeah, super smart.
So basically, if you don't know how to update the system, manually, you're not going to get that pop up for a while.
Correct. Yep. Okay. Also, and I hate to harp on about this, but we did talk about this a couple of weeks ago. And so I assume now you've implemented some kind of family backup solution that we talked about at length a couple of weeks ago. So you shouldn't have any worries. In the event that the upgrade goes bad, you can just restore from this reliable backup system that you've implemented. Right,
yep,
Rocco?
Of course. I mean, okay, Great. So here's the difference. Dad's computer, he has like 3 separate backups. He's on top of it. He's all over it.
Awesome.
Rocco's not so.
This is a lesson you didn't pick up.
Yeah, Rocco's not so into the backups or up on them. So he's definitely got backups too. Yeah, I don't think we'll have to worry about that.
Earlier on, Popey talked about like the work that we've been doing with Z. I say we, it's specifically Didier Roche and Jean-Baptiste have been doing on ZFS. So where we would like to get to with ZFS is this place. You start an upgrade. Let's say you're upgrading from 2004 to 2204. And when that upgrade starts, it actually creates a new ZFS snapshot, and it does the upgrade inside the new ZFS snapshot. So it doesn't touch the file system that you're running on at all. And then you get asked to reboot, and you reboot into the upgraded snapshot. So it pivots to that new system. And if anything has gone wrong and it's a big fat mess, you can just reboot, and from the boot thing, say, I want my previous version prior to the upgrade. And it's literally a second to flip back and forward between those 2 snapshots. So we're trying to get to a place where an upgrade is just, it's a matter of seconds to do the reboot, because it can do the upgrade behind the scenes completely cleanly without clattering the running system in any way whatsoever.
That is pretty awesome. That is no headache updates right there.
Right. Also, about 18 months of work.
Yeah, well, that doesn't do that. Okay, so everybody knows how much work goes into. I don't think maybe we all don't know. Maybe some of us know, but a lot of us know how much work goes into all this. I can't imagine when you get down to that type of level of that's completely way over my head. I can't imagine how much work goes into that. So Michael Tennell, he wrote an article on Front Page Linux about upgrades, and it says, here's how to upgrade, but should you? And he goes through a couple scenarios, and overall it was a pretty good article, but he goes through a couple scenarios that you might not want to upgrade to 2004 yet. One is users of 32-bit 1804. Do we know like how many 32-bit users are still out there using it?
A fraction of 1%.
Yeah. Okay. Because man, I'm thinking to myself, like, the 32-bit conversation started a while ago, and it seems like it's still coming up, and I don't know who would be running it.
I use 32-bit.
Who said that?
Prophetic.
Prophetic. Why are you using 32-bit?
I use it in my church's nursery as a way to remote in and have them stream the sermon remotely, and it's because I had to recycle a HP 110 netbook.
The truth is, he uses it because he knows Linux is supposed to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, so I use it as an appliance, and that thing is running, of course, MX 19.3 or 18.3. I forget which one, but 18 or 19. So that's the only reason why I use it. So I'm grateful that it's available, but yeah, it's only appliance use.
Okay.
You can have your precious 32-bit for another 8 years.
Well, you are a fraction of the 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least he doesn't use it for
not in our
as a daily
statistics
driver.
running MX Linux. So you get that prompt when you install Ubuntu and Ubuntu Mate. I'm not sure if any of the other flavors have opted into this, but the Ubuntu report that says, do you want to share your hardware details with us, so we can. It's really useful because quite often we'll talk about screen resolutions, and we can go and look at that data and actually figure out, like, actually 1366 by 768 is the most popular resolution. We should probably make sure that works reliably for everyone, because there are more people running that resolution than any other. So it is useful to us. But one of the things that captures is the architecture, and 32-bit Intel hasn't been a release architecture for Ubuntu since 1710, and the rest of the flavors dropped it in 1804. So, you know, the ability to upgrade has been slowly turned off, and there's no upgrade path beyond 1910. So it's really over in the Ubuntu ecosystem for 32-bit Intel, unless
But if
you
you're on
want to run
1804,
and
you can stay on it.
unless you want to run 1804, you know, for the duration of its life cycle. Well, no, but you would have had to have upgraded from 1710 or earlier to get there. Yeah.
Well, there was a netboot ISO for 1804, so you could have got the 32-bit. There are ways
Yeah.
you could have become one of the fraction of 1%.
Yeah.
And be on 1804, a 32-bit install. But yeah, those people who are on that should probably stay on that.
All right. I'm sorry, Bill. I know you wanted to get in on the conversation earlier, and I completely forgot and went over you. So did you want to get in on it? Hey, Bill's not there. All right, we're going to continue on.
Esnix,
I am there, but you muted me.
For your safety, I muted you, sir.
Yes. So I just wanted to say thank you to Martin for the really kind words. I really appreciate that. There's a couple things I wanted to say. First, there is a blog post that I posted the link to, and it is an incredibly well-written blog post about what's new in Ubuntu Desktop that Wimpy wrote. Take 10, 15 minutes and read it. It doesn't have any emojis, so it's kind of weird reading it, but
I can't read without emojis.
It is tremendous. There's a lot of information, and looking at what 2004, especially in the next couple of weeks when we're testing and using, it's going to give you a heads up, and it's going to apply to not just Ubuntu proper, but all of the flavors. I wanted to just thank Joshua. I saw the work Joshua did in the channel that Mr. Phillips put together for the testing. Joshua worked really, really hard. I'm very impressed with his work. Another person that I wanted to point out is Rick Mills. Rick Mills needs like a bright, shining light flashing on him. An incredible amount of work, not just with Kubuntu, not just with Ubuntu, helping people, just helping users support the number of packages that guy, he's not a person. I swear that he is a construct that people log in and use that name. But that's really what I want to just read the article Wimpy wrote and just go find Rick Mills and just thank him. That's all I really want to say.
Well, I wanted to actually talk to Rick Mills on Linux Spotlight because he is somebody that puts a ton of effort into everything that we see in the Ubuntu land, and you know he's also a very not shy person, but he doesn't want the spotlight, so he kindly declined on that. But I would love to talk to him someday on it.
Yeah, Rick is great, and he helps out all the flavors, including Ubuntu Mate and even Ubuntu. Rick and I have done a few things this cycle where this may sound weird to some of you, but I have fewer permissions in the archive than Rick does. So the work that I did with FFmpeg and Steam this last cycle to land hardware acceleration for FFmpeg and OBS and various other things, and the new version of the Steam package, I was only able to do through my collaboration with Rick. So I did the packaging work, but Rick was my sponsor. So he actually vetted my work and made sure it was of appropriate quality and uploaded it. So Rick is great. And also somebody else I'd like to call out, and I know Joshua has benefited from this individual's attention and efforts, is David Mohammed, who's responsible for Ubuntu Budgie, but also instrumental and very helpful with the emerging flavors and helping them bootstrap and get started as well.
Very nice.
I also should point out Eichmeyer too. I don't know how you say his name. The Ubuntu Studio lead has also been a big help with helping people with the testing and support. And also I've seen him, he's also a very amazing guy. So you always want to try to talk to him if he's around or available, and I'm sure like he'll try to help you.
Yep, agreed. Asnix, you wanted to get in?
Oh, yeah. I decided at the beta period to take a look at I haven't looked at Ubuntu years, so, and I've been running it very well from beta through present. So very nice to see Ubuntu on a very stable base and with support for another few years. So
yep,
just very happy with that. One thing I did notice, and it might tie in to the Python discussion earlier, was there's a little YouTube related piece of software that probably all of you know what I'm talking about to collect videos with that didn't want to run because of a Python problem. And I noticed that if I installed Python 2, it actually would work. But the solution, the better solution, was just to create a symbolic link from Python 3 to Python in USR bin, and that got, well, it got it running. Python 2 actually, when you install Python 2, creates that same symlink.
Is there a snap for YouTube, DL?
Yes.
Well, maybe that's
but not
another
everybody likes using snaps.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that seems to be like a cleaner way to do it if you do run into problems, but
well, but see, this is one of the benefits that come from using snaps. That you know, people are sometimes, certain people are very resistant to change and very resistant to snaps, and but these are all the benefits that you see, and the more and more time goes by, the more you see what a benefit it is, and I still can't fathom the problems with
I
it.
was curious why that's such a bad idea, though, Alan. That symlink, that specific symlink.
Because when you make symlinks to the wrong version of Python, and an application is written in a different version of Python, it's going to misbehave.
Because that symlink is universal, right?
Right.
Right.
It may work for one piece of software that works on both Python 2 and Python 3, but most Python scripts aren't written like that.
There is
You
quite
got
a big
lucky.
difference between Python 2 and Python 3.
Well, that's usually worked with other programs in the past as well, so not just Python. So
Yeah, we got people who like to live life on the edge, and I'm one of them with the 32-bit stuff on.
Yeah, right. All right, Nate, you wanted to get in.
The other edge.
Other edge, yeah.
Prophetic likes to live on the other edge, the backside edge, you know, the backstop. I was curious. So the snapshot system that you have in Ubuntu, I'm very fascinated by that because I've been enjoying that in the ButterFS version. How were you able to borrow any of that code, any of those bits to make that work from other projects?
No. Okay. So ZFS itself has got all of the primitives that we need, and the way that so in 1910 ZFS was introduced, but the change in 2004 is the introduction of a bit of software called ZSys. And ZSys is something that Didier and Jean-Baptiste have been working on, not just this cycle, but for a couple of cycles. And that's the integration that exists. So, for example, if you do apt install a bunch of packages, ZSys, partway through that process, it takes a snapshot. So if you then, if that creates a big problem on your system, exposed in the grub menu is a restore point, and you can boot back to, life before that upgrade or that package set installation. So ZSys is sort of integrated into the fabric of Ubuntu, and it's an event-driven snapshotting utility that automatically scaffolds the restore points in the grub boot menus. And like Popey said earlier, that's like the foundational block that we need now in order to develop a whole bunch of intelligent backup and restore capabilities built on top of ZFS, and ZSys is the piece that does that. And that's something that we've developed with input and review from the upstream OpenZFS project. So, you know, they've validated our approach and made sure that we're, you know, doing sensible things. And there were things that we wanted to do, and they said, actually, you want to hold off on doing that because we've got other developments that are coming down the pipe that you can take advantage of. So save, like we wanted to turn some additional encryption features on, and they said, no, wait a bit. And we'll be turning those on in the next cycle because we can take advantage of some new developments upstream that they've been working on. But we're on a path to tighten that integration.
Okay, very cool. Because I've been using a similar snapshot system in OpenSUSE every time there's it's an event-driven thing that I think that if I did not have, I would have had to do a lot of nuke and paves in my life. So that's an awesome feature. I'm glad that more distributions have that. So those of us that like to meddle in places we shouldn't, we can, you know, pretend like it never even happened. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and you know, while we're talking about ZFS, we're kind of focusing around the desktop, but the work that the desktop team have done on ZFS in this release is the same ZFS implementation that exists on server as well. So, you know, we're all Ubuntu. Just so happens we have some people that are passionate about ZFS in the desktop team, but they've taken that project on for all of Ubuntu. So all of these features are available in the server edition as well.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in on the Ubuntu scene?
I will, if it's okay.
Steve, everybody's more than welcome to join. So go ahead.
Of course, I know. No, I installed Ubuntu yesterday. Nice job, gentlemen. I'm testing out. I'm using nothing but snaps. I did notice, and it probably is a tribute to GNOME. I installed it on an HP 8460, and at cold boot, it was at like 1.2 gigs of RAM. I was on last night with Carmine and Total OS, so we were on Discord with video going. I had Telegram open, and I looked at the system resources, and I was only at 1.6 gigs of RAM, so that was looking pretty nice. My one question, it seems I have a problem with the Snap Store. So I'm just seeing the featured and new releases, and I'm not getting any categories in it.
So we're a bit of a victim of our own success here, and the number of people who have upgraded to 2004 is, I would say, slightly higher than we were anticipating. And over this weekend, it's been putting quite a strain on all the infrastructure. So there's a few things that the web goblins have been doing in order to mitigate some of that, like rate limiting some connections and limiting some of what are called the API endpoints. So there may be some limited functionality until we get over this weekend. I suspect it will calm down after the weekend, but it's funny. Back in the like early days of Ubuntu, back in like 2008, 2009, when a new version came out, we would get reports from ISPs like asking what on earth we were doing, and it was just all their users upgrading at the same time and downloading ISO images and stuff. And that kind of went through a peak in the early 2010s, and it's kind of coming back, and we're starting to get reports of like significant bandwidth usage of lots of people downloading ISOs and doing in-place upgrades, which is lovely. But it also means our infrastructure, it might be creaking in some places, but it's all in hand and they're on it. But yeah, sorry about that. But,
so just to build on what Alan was saying, I did look into the numbers earlier. You know, we talked about Ubuntu report that people can, you know, say they've upgraded or installed. Ubuntu 2004 has by far the highest adoption of any Ubuntu release.
Nice.
So yes, we're scaling out some of our CDN capacity at the moment to deal with the brunt of it.
But nice job, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to jump in? All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Larry.
I'd just like to ask Martin, does he have any idea how many downloads you've had over the whole Ubuntu?
Yes.
Well,
I love that smile
you
you have
share?
when you said that.
bear in mind, downloads do not equal installs. Don't believe any distro that tells you that they got X number of downloads and that maps to users. It absolutely doesn't.
I should probably qualify. I know how many installs there have been. We don't actually monitor or track the download numbers. We know what they are, but we don't use them as a meaningful metric. But we do know what the install numbers are. But sadly, I can't tell you.
Wow, that's so
It's a
wrong.
massive number.
That is so wrong.
The reason is that some of those numbers are made up from our OEM partners at Dell, HP, and Lenovo. So consequently, it's commercially sensitive. So we can't. Talk about.
I'm okay with it though. I'm okay with you just saying it.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm sure
between
you
the
are.
25 of us. There's
Right. I
nobody
mean,
else
yeah.
Nobody will know.
I mean, I can tell you this: the number of devices that the OEMs ship pre-installed with Ubuntu, if that was the only user base, right? If the only user base was on Ubuntu was what the OEM sold, that alone is more than all the other distributions put together by some considerable margin.
Wow. Okay, so I guess we aren't getting any more info on that. All right, so there was an article on OMG Ubuntu about 10 things to do. And there's people that like those lists that are out there, the 10 things to do or 6 things to do after you do such and such a thing. And there's other people that don't. I was never a big fan of the lists, but I did read the article, and I would just like to go down the list and get your guys' take on it, on maybe what you do for the first couple things you do when you install a new system. So number one thing is to see what's new. Obviously, you want to know what you're installing. Second thing is play with dark mode. Install GNOME tweaks. Get a powerful file preview tool. Enable minimize on click specifically for the Ubuntu proper. Show battery percentage. Change touchpad scroll direction. Set up live patch. Turn on automatic trash deletion, and try some top tier software. So, is this anything close to what you guys do? Or what is some of your first things you do when you first install something?
The scroll direction.
Near
I feel like I'm
fetch.
gonna start a war if we talk about normal scroll direction and natural scroll direction. So yeah, natural here.
Are you really?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Like it's like you're moving it for real. Not I don't know how to explain that. You're moving it for real.
But I can go
Don't make
between
me bring up
natural.
double click.
I mean, I can go between natural and regular scroll. I can switch between the two, but I can't tell you which one I prefer yet. I just don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, come over to the natural
I
side.
prefer natural.
Natural.
Do you?
I'm
I wrote a bash script.
I'm glad you highlighted
scroll
this
just to keep me guessing.
Sorry if this is a stupid question, but what's the difference between the two? I don't usually use a trackpad, so
Basically reversed.
It's reversed. So if you want to, scroll up, you normally pull back on the mouse. And if you
the
want
way we've always done it is backwards, and the natural way is correct.
Right. What he said. So if you want to,
I
if you
believe
want
that's the way Macs are. I think if I
that's
remember correctly,
exactly the way
OS.
Macs are. If you just happen to have an iMac that you just purchased, you would be on natural right away because that's the default.
Yep.
Okay.
Alan, what did you want to say?
I was just saying thank you for introducing me to this blog post. I'm implementing some of these things right now because I wasn't aware of them. So I've done the battery percentage thing. That's quite good. I like having a number in the corner of the screen. I already had GNOME tweaks installed because I like to fiddle with the appearance. And what was the other one? There was another one. Oh, minimize on click.
Yes.
I like that. That was a thing Unity used to do. And I like click the window and it goes away, click it again and it comes back. So yeah. Awesome.
So is there something else that you do specifically when you install something?
I think so. When we first announced that we were switching from Unity to GNOME as the default desktop, I wrote a blog post back in 2017, and because I tried out GNOME Shell because I was a bit of a Unity fanboy, and I listed all the ways in which I personally, my opinion, not my employer, considered GNOME Shell to be, shall we say, broken. And I listed all the things that I think should be implemented, and some people agreed with me. Martin's predecessor running the desktop team also agreed with me and implemented some of these changes. So there are very few things I have to do on GNOME Shell now because I just spoke to Will and Will implemented them. So for example, on GNOME Shell, the default is when you switch workspaces, it only switches the primary monitor. If you've got multiple monitors, it doesn't switch workspace on all of them. And I asked Will if he could change that, and I think he did. So I think the default now is, or did you do that, Martin? Was it you or him?
No, the problem is that I haven't done any of the things Alan's asked me to do in Ubuntu in the last 6 months. And
I so wanted to ask if you were as agreeable.
And
Actually,
consequently,
there is one thing.
when I said to Popey the other day, do you think we should put, because that blog post that Bill referred to earlier,
I was just
Popey
about
and
to
I wrote
mention
that
this.
together. And when we were writing it together, I said, do you think we should put emoji in this? And he was like, no.
Oh, so you're the reason we don't have emojis.
Yes.
Okay.
You're welcome.
There are still emojis in the Ubuntu Mate blog post.
One or
I have
two.
no jurisdiction there.
I have full jurisdiction there, yes.
All right, how about you other guys? What do you, Barbara, what do you do? Like, is there a list that you do when you first install, like, Ubuntu Mate?
What I do, because I usually do a fresh install, I go through, number one is I change the trackpad direction, because that drives me crazy. So I use the unnatural one. And then I install all the software that I may not have, that I don't have on it, because it's a fresh install. And I've got that. I've got a list of it. I just go through. And one of the nice things is with Ubuntu Mate, in the software boutique, you can just queue them all up so that you have a, like you just stick them in a queue and you run them as like in batch. And then you say, run. And it installs all of them. Then I think I only have about, I'm not really sure how many others I have, but some of them are like, I have to either download them if they're like an app. One of them's like an app image, and they don't have it as a snap or anything. So then I just install those and I'm all set. And I don't really have to worry about the whole setup because I haven't wiped out all my config files because those are sitting on a different drive in my home directory. So then once I get everything all on, I reboot it. And then I think it takes me not even a half an hour and I'm all set and ready to go.
Very nice.
And that's what I do. And I've got it down to a system. And the real big time saver is that I don't wipe my home directory. So I just tell it where home is and, in the install, and then it just works.
Right.
Yep. So my first thing is once I install it and I reboot it, I change the trackpad direction.
All right, Nate, you wanted to jump in?
I was going to have a thought on scrolling because that there was am I still quiet?
No, you're
okay
fine.
Now. Okay, good. So if you invert the scrolling to the natural way or whatever it's called, Mr. Pope taught me how to use my, what do you call the track mouse, the fancy the keyboard mouse, the little rubber button thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That he's showing it right there. Yeah. That, what is that called? I don't know. J mouse.
Track point.
It's a track point.
Track point.
Track point. Okay, I like that. If you invert the scrolling to the Mac unnatural way, then you have to go down for up and up for down. So it's like you're flying a plane, and that just doesn't work for me since I don't fly planes. So it has to work best with that little track point thing. Otherwise, it's not going to work for me.
Well,
so maybe there's a script that somebody else could, maybe Kevin could create for me, Cats and Cold, that would reverse just that and not everything else, or not reverse that. That I could probably deal with it, but I gotta have my track point thing go in the right direction.
Well, see, I can see like the pilot thing, playing a game. I never liked, every game has its own way of introducing, do you want to invert the axis or whatever? And I never do that because I can't stand that. But I can understand the natural scrolling. I don't know why. Although I still am undecided because switching back and forth between the two, I sometimes get confused on which one I'm on. So I'm doing the wrong direction either way because, like I said, I switch sometimes back and forth. But I think there's a difference there between using the mouse wheel and like playing a game with an inverted thing. So, all right, anybody else want to jump in on what they do for things when they first install a system?
So is this in relation to GNOME or any?
No, whatever system you use, when you install it, what do you do? What is a list you could write to say, this is what I do?
Account for all my hardware. If there's a piece of hardware you can't get to work, then the distro might be something you have to look at a different one for.
Well, I'm not specifically talking about distro hopping. I'm talking about like if you're going to install your main distro, like the one you use all the time. Although, Dan, you don't have a main distro, do you? Like you hop all the time.
Talking to me.
But I mean,
I'm kind of stuck on one right now.
Okay, so your main distro, is there something like if you were going to reinstall that at some point, is there something you would do as the first thing you did when you booted up into it?
Like I said, I'd go and I'd make sure my sound work. My monitors are always a big thing. They have to work right. And then, I check the sound. The printer can come later. Then I basically just copy my home folder off the other drive onto this drive. And, it has a lot of all-in-one software pieces on it, like Thunderbird, WaterFox, Firefox, Telegram. That stuff starts right up without even logging in most of the time. And then I maybe will go in and set the theme and the color that I like for Cinnamon, and I'm off and running. Sometimes I don't even have to do that.
I know a lot of people do like pre-install all their stuff. I install on demand. So I'll wait until I need a piece of software, then I'll go and get it. And I feel like that has meant that I don't pre-install stuff that I probably don't need anymore.
You mean like I have a script to install programs, and I install like a specific set of 15 or 20 programs that I probably never use, and they just sit there. Yeah. The Bearded Wonder. The Bearded Wonder, you wanted to get in.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's a couple of utilities that now aren't necessarily always available in distros. One is Synaptic after install, and one is Gparted. So I always go and install them. And then, like Alan, I only install the software that I know I use on a regular basis. And then anything else like FS burn or whatever, CD burning software. If I suddenly realize I need it, I'll go and install it. But most of the time it'll just be the basic packages like Audacity, OBS, and the things that I use for podcasting to make sure I've got them available.
Tony, do you have any settings that you specifically change? Like to say, I do this every time?
Not particularly. I tend to go with the default, and then if I find it's not working for me, then I'll go in and change it. Particularly on high def laptops, sometimes I'll downgrade the definition of the screen just because my eyes are getting old and I can't always see what's on it if it's 1080p.
You and me both. Aris, you want to get in?
Yes. When I get a new system going, I usually go and uninstall all the programs like LibreOffice, Firefox, and then I install snaps for them instead. So
really,
they automatically update. Yeah. Especially Firefox, I like using the snap, and then I install Rofi and I copy over. I make new profiles, copy over my user.js files and Chrome folder with all the settings for Firefox, and also I set up. I copy over my scripts. And one of the scripts is so it forces the pipeline for anti-tearing, so it doesn't tear the video. And also I set up another script so that when the computer starts up, I have my menu key as a Windows key instead.
Right. Does anybody know, and maybe it's a specific thing or whatever, but does anybody? Most of us make that change in the NVIDIA settings so we don't get screen tearing. Is there a reason why it's not on by default? Does anybody know?
Which setting?
Well, some of us change the pipelining, and some of us change the flipping. So the allow flipping on certain distros will, if you uncheck that, it'll stop the screen tearing. And then, like I said, some of the other ones are the pipelining. Go ahead, Martin.
The disabling the flipping you need if you're doing screen capture, OBS or simple screen recorder or whatever using NVIDIA hardware. The forced composition pipeline, that's not a generic solution for everyone, which is why it can't be enabled by default for everyone, because if it's turned off, everything works. Albeit you probably have some screen tearing for, more modern GPUs. But if you turn it on, some system configurations just have no video output.
Got you. All right. Robin, like we just talked to the bearded wonder, but you shaved yours. So what's going on, Dave?
The hair's going the other way. So I looked at myself in the mirror this morning and I thought, this is really annoying me now. So it got a shave today.
Okay. So you wanted to get on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because sorry for joining late, by the way. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all well and safe. I was just going to say congratulations to everyone on the Ubuntu team. Done a fantastic, sterling job with this release, and I am thoroughly recommending it to everyone I speak to. So it's a very, very good release. Just quickly on the subject of the screen tearing, I've been running Ubuntu for a couple of nights, and I didn't have to do absolutely anything at all to the settings. I've had no screen tearing whatsoever. So I don't know if it's my card, my NVIDIA drivers, but the NVIDIA 440 driver installed without any issue, and I've had no screen tearing whatsoever. Agree with Martin that the changing the pipeline doesn't really do anything for me. Obviously when I'm doing my screen capturing, yes, I do have to turn flipping off, but that's the only time really I have to disable it. But apart from that, out of the box, everything works swimmingly. So I've got no issues there whatsoever. And I just want to just cut back a few minutes more when we were talking about what we do on first installs. Well, I've actually downloaded minimal installs of the Ubuntu series this week, and as soon as I put them on, there's no software on there, great for me, because it means I can put on there what I want. So particularly with my daughter's machines, which I'm going to be upgrading tomorrow, they're going to get a minimal install, and I'm only going to install the software on there that they actually want to use, because I've noticed that when I was going through previous releases that they've been using, it's been quite bloated for them. And they generally only want to have the LibreOffice, the free office suites, the browsers, Steam, and a few other games that they like. And that's all they need, really. So today I've put a minimal install of Ubuntu on my machine here. The first thing I did, obviously, I just checked to see if the NVIDIA driver got installed okay, and yeah, no problems there. And the next thing I did is I went and put NeoFetch on, because I just wanted to just have it there, because I love NeoFetch. And then I go into the bash HC script and add it there. So every time I load up a terminal, I get NeoFetch loaded. So that's the first thing I always do. And then during installation, because of the recent issues I had, and some would have experienced it on my live stream the other night as I was doing a live install, is that I've noticed that if I have the option to tick to download updates on during install, and even with the third-party hardware enabled, I was having some issues there. So I had to then go and reinstall again. And when I had those options deselected, then it installed fine. And then the first thing I do is the sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade, and I just let the system get on with it. And because of the speed of my internet, and I've got good SSDs read-write access on it, I can normally get the updates done within a space of 3 minutes, which is not too bad for me here. And then I just go and configure it. So Firefox, obviously being my default browser, first thing I do is just turn the title bar off. And then I start having to play with the snaps and the Flatpaks. So what I've been doing today, I'm playing around with Flatpak. So that's what I've been doing in Ubuntu today.
So I'd just like to mention something about the NVIDIA driver in 2004, because if you installed any time up to 12 hours before release, you didn't get this feature. So in the final release of Ubuntu 2004, the NVIDIA drivers, if you do the install and you click the third-party software thing and you've got an NVIDIA card, it installs the NVIDIA drivers for you. And it's done that since 1910. But what it does now is that instead of installing and building DKMS modules for the NVIDIA drivers, it installs pre-compiled, late-linked binary drivers for NVIDIA that are signed. So you don't have to disable secure boot. So you can have an entirely secure boot system with signed NVIDIA drivers. And it turned out we found a bug in that like the day before release. So we were up until 3 a.m. On the day of release. So 4 a.m. on the Wednesday, 4 p.m. on the Wednesday, we found this issue. And from 4 p.m. till 3 a.m., there were 7 of us actively working on fixing that so that it made it into the final release. So, you know, it's fun times.
So was that across all the flavors?
Yeah, because that's a core component.
Yeah. Well, top kudos to all your team there. They've done a sterling job with that.
Yeah, that's
days off in lieu for all of them.
Well, see, that's the stuff that you don't see. Like, we all enjoy the new releases, but the stuff that goes on behind the scenes like that, of them putting their time in for that, that's awesome.
And during lockdown,
right? Jason, you want to get in, dude?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I do when I first, put a new install of Linux, or pretty much any OS, but mostly Linux, because it's more customizable, is I like to go in and do all the tweaks of the background and the folders and the icons, and get everything set up the way that I like it. The bars in the same spot. Then the next thing I do is I make sure I get everything connected to the network, my home network, because I have a file server that I run. It's I got to get all the files connected there so I can drag everything all down and all that good stuff. But then I get all the normal programs I use, usually the first program I put on there is Ranger. I love that program, so I can just go through and get all my files and stuff like that. I use Ranger, HTOP, all that good stuff. But the biggest thing I do is I go in and I customize everything the way I want it to look. Sometimes it's different from the previous install or something like that. But because sometimes you don't get exactly the same tweak, but I pretty much just like to get it all customized to my field and where I can move things around and do everything with shortcut keys and all kinds of stuff.
Jason, I have a question. Do you, when you install something, when you install a distro, do you wipe out your home directory?
Yeah, I usually just have everything backed up on a file server and just.
Oh, because I found it so much easier. I just leave the home directory, and then.
If I'm installing a new install, there's usually something going on that's not working right or something like that for me to do a new install. So I don't trust anything. So
okay.
I just wipe it out, get a fresh, clean install. That way, you know for a fact you're not going to get any of the bugs back in. And then I just bring down the files and stuff that I need, because that's why I have a home, I have a server, a file server running in my home. Actually, right down here, my Mac is the file server. It has like 10 hard drives in it, I think, something like that. But it's so I just drag it all down.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because I do have mine all backed up on my file server, but usually I just say, okay, wipe out whatever version of Ubuntu's on there and put it on where it's supposed to be, and then have it find my home directory wherever it is.
If I'm just uninstalling just for the fun of uninstalling, or just installing the main OS on a different, like on a laptop or something like that, not my main computer, then maybe I'll bring the home drive over or something like that. But if I have to do a reinstall for for whatever reason something breaks, then it's going to be a fresh install. Always a fresh install.
So, for lockdown entertainment, my daughter and I went around the house finding all of the computers that exist in the house. Turns out there are 21 computers in the house.
21.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can put my hands on about 7 right now. Hang on, here we go.
Got me beat.
Sounds like my house.
There we go. There's 7 without even trying.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my house has the over 25 connected devices.
Yeah. So what I do is I use a couple of bits of software. One's called Yadim, which is yet another dot manager, and the other is DIRenv. And those are the 2 utilities that I have to install on any new system. And with that, I restore effectively what Barbara's doing by restoring her home directory from her file server onto a new install. This is a means of planting that initial configuration that I need, and until I've got LastPass and Yadim and restored all of my configuration and DIRenv, I am in an extremely uncomfortable place, and I can't function as a human being. But once I've caught up and got my configuration in place, then I'm off and I'm sailing.
Very nice. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'm kind of boring.
Just use external drives and rotate those around to keep backups, and tar up my home directory before I reinstall, and then untar it in the new system.
And that's pretty much all you change?
That's about it. I change the icon size on the desktop a little smaller than default, change the background, and any other settings that I forget about when I discover that I want them, I'll change them then.
Yeah, for me, I besides the scripts for the apps, I kind of make my Windows Nomi and my Windows switching and all that stuff for the like GNOME, even though I'm not using it. So it's kind of funny how we all got our works with what we want to do with it. But I was such a late bloomer when it came to like using the install scripts to automate that. I was always like afraid of like, you know, messing something up if I did it. Now it's like so comfortable just to run it and check, you know, comment off anything that I don't want anymore, because if I'm in a GTK environment versus a, you know, a Ubuntu based environment or something like that, like it's so, I'm just grateful that I eventually decided to do that, because it's so much easier for that way.
Yep.
Hey, Rocco, I put a link in the Zoom chat. So Michael Dooley, who's a big part of the Ubuntu Mate community and all over the forums, talks about how he does a /data, and then he links stuff like photos, music, videos, so that when he reinstalls, he blows away home, so he doesn't have any issues that he might have had with a .dot file. And then he just links in all of his data. So I put the link in. It's a really nice idea. He's been doing it for years, and Michael has a great benefit to everybody. He's incredible dude also. Very helpful.
Yeah, Dave, you've been doing the same thing, correct? Because we talked about this a while ago, and I was doing the same thing for a while too.
Yeah, I have, all my machines have a separate disk that I keep all my home folders on, all my .dot files on, and whatever distro I'm installing, I have scripts that just automatically delete the files in the home folder and symlink in from the other disk, whatever ones are needed for the particular distro I'm putting in. So it saves me a lot of time. You know, Firefox is all set up. Thunderbird, I don't have to enter in my 16 email accounts. Steam is all set up with the games and everything. All I do is, you know, run Steam the first time to get the client set up, and all my games are already populated in the library. It just makes life a whole lot easier. I actually got the idea for the script from Ryan Das Geek. And then the symlinking in, I was watching somebody do a video on a Gentoo, Calculate Linux, and he symlinked in everything. And I added that into my script to just make it easier. So, you know, when I get the distro installed, I just pull in one file, you know, one script file, run it, reboot, and my system's good to go.
See, I solved this by not hopping.
So I would say symlinks are fantastic. It's a capability that, you know, Linux and Unix have enjoyed for decades, that, you know, the other platforms, well, macOS has it, of course, but Windows has kind of got kludgy. But in a world of containers, confinement, and enhanced security, here's my top tip for the day. Learn what bind mounts are, and instead of using symlinks, start using bind mounts. You'll find that you'll have a more trouble-free experience using bind mounts, because they are naturally exposed through the permissions that exist in a Linux system and C groups and stuff.
Writing that down to check out later. Just saying. All right, Big Pod.
I normally just install Git. That's the first thing I do, because almost no distro has it installed by default. At least I think so. So that's the first thing that goes in. Second thing is then cloning my .dot file from one of my repositories and put it in the right place, and then my life is right. Everything looks exactly like I want, and that's it.
Does anyone use like GitLab or GitHub to pull their .dot files?
I do it, yeah. I have it on like 3 or 4 services, just so they are completely safe.
I have a few of my personal scripts on GitHub, and I just git down those and just symlink them into my bin folder in my home directory.
Yeah, I think.
And that way
I'm sorry, Thomas. Go ahead.
That way, if people want to use them for whatever reason, they can. I don't mind sharing like my bash RC or whatever, so people can have something similar. You know, why not?
Dustin from Ubuntu Budgie has been trying to get me to do that same very thing, is to use GitHub to do the dot files, and time is always an issue, so that's why I haven't done it yet. But yeah, there are a lot of people that I know that do that. Nate.
Rocco.
Yeah, Bill, go ahead.
So Martin mentioned this. I just put the link in. It's the Yet Another Dot Files Manager, and it's really awesome for doing that.
I'm gonna check that out. So you can set profiles like that in case I jump to a GTK environment versus another environment. I can easily restore contextually to what I'm using, what's the main benefit of that system?
Well, it's really intended to manage all of your dot files. I also extend it in that I have scripts inside it as well, and I have trees from G settings exported so that I can automatically apply configuration for the desktop by applying a configuration file on top. So instead of having to go click through all of the things you normally do, you can export each of those settings and then just go, just apply that because I'm here now and these are the things that I want. For context-aware configuration, that's what I use DIRN for. And that handles the context awareness for if I'm in a given directory, then it behaves in a particular way.
Awesome.
All right, Nate, you're up, sir.
So there's only one tedious thing that I do after a reinstall or if I install into a new machine. So I run OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, and every time I install, there's not really much I have to do. I just change the color theme a little bit, and which I already have that saved. And then all my keyboard shortcuts are exported, so I just import that. But the only tedious thing that I do is the notification sounds. Katie Plasma, God bless them, they have very nice sounds, I guess. But I don't like anybody's sounds. I don't care who you are. They're all terrible. No offense, Ubuntu, but I don't like yours either. So they're all Star Trek sound effects. So they're the different chirps and beeps and everything from Star Trek.
You're such a geek, dude.
Lose AC power. Oh, I am a nerd turned up to 11. But when you lose power, it's the Majel Barrett. You hear like the sound of the Enterprise of the power dropping, like you would hear, when the ship gets hit or whatever. And then Majel Barrett saying emergency power engaged, and then the sound of powering back up. It's all stuff that I mixed and put together for myself probably some 15 years ago, and I've been using it ever since.
To be
I'm gonna go out here on a limb here and say somebody's a Trekkie.
I love it. That's great.
I'm brilliant. I can even share those files if you want, but I have a folder that I move to every system or every install. I just have to just put those back in when on a fresh install, and then pretty much that's really the only time-consuming part. Everything else is pretty much good to go. Now I got to make it kind of greenish, and I got to lose it in the corner. Yeah.
They're probably the original recordings of those sound effects probably had higher budgets and higher production values than any sound effect on any Linux distro at all. So it's not unreasonable that you consider them better than any of our sound effects.
Put that on GitLab. Share it up.
I just turn off all notifications. I don't even have any sounds on my systems.
The only thing that rubs me a little bit is when somebody else hears it and they say, "Oh, is that R2D2?" Like, no, it's not. Yep, there we go. I don't use that one though. That's too obnoxious.
Yeah,
I can confirm that Nate is a fully signed up Star Trek nerd because we have both been on the same Star Trek podcast together.
Yep.
Speaking of sounds, I was going to say, Alan, I noticed Ubuntu, when you first load it from a live USB, you get this nice quiet sound coming out of speakers. But I didn't notice it when I did an install and then logged into Ubuntu for the first time. So is that kind of a hidden login sound you need to enable?
It's an accessibility feature. So someone who has partial visibility would know when the window is up and when they need to press the button on the keyboard to move the installer forward. Martin knows more about this, but as I understand it, that actually has been there for a long time. And I actually booted up a machine that's 10 years old, and it has sound effects. It used to be drums. It used to just go boom when it started. But at some point, there's been a bug introduced, and the sound went away. It was still there, but the bug meant it didn't play, and that was fixed in this cycle. And so everyone's noticed it now, and everyone's like, "Oh, they've put sound
Nostalgia.
effects on the installer."
We
And it's
we
like,
actually do like it, and I would like to see it be something I hear every time I boot the system up.
So
But
there-
it's just like a hidden sound I can't find.
Agreed.
It's contentious because actually the sound that we use now is not the sound we used in the past. The sound we use now comes from the phone. I think it was the SMS sound effect from Ubuntu Touch. So if you look at the Ubuntu Touch project, you'll probably find the audio in there. But yeah, we've gone backwards and forwards on having startup sounds and shutdown sounds as well. But that one has function in that it's an accessibility feature. It's not just a sound effect.
Yeah, the EDT team went back and found all of the sounds that were used in the phone project and have reused them in the EDT sound theme that now features in 2004. So there's a whole bunch of, error conditions and alerts and notification sounds, and those are all derived from originally the phone project. And as Alan says, that initial sound, it is an accessibility feature to prompt visually impaired users that it's now time to log in or press a particular key to turn on the screen reader. And something we invested, turns out, quite a lot of time fixing this cycle is, the screen reader. There was bugs in the screen reader, and that wasn't working until a week before release, and was a really thorny problem. And we had to do a git bisect and figure out exactly what had changed between, the last version and the current version in order to make that work again. So there was a whole, it's stuff we probably don't, see, that's a poor choice of words, it's stuff that we don't appreciate, but it's important stuff that we need to do for a small percentage of our, our users.
Yep. Leo?
Yeah, just to add a little bit. My distro hopping days are mostly over. So the way that I do the installation stuff is I just blow it all away. I think DistroTube in YouTube in the YouTube chat was talking about how you just back up your music, you back up your videos, you back up the files that you care about, blow everything away, and then just bring it back in. Configuration files. I think I thought that this on-demand installation thing would have been way more controversial than it is, but it seems like a lot of people kind of subscribe to that. And that's just how I do it. Like the config files just get regenerated again when I need them, because a lot of times it's been 2.5 years since I've made a change. So maybe it's time for a change.
Yep. I am so planning on staying on the distro that I'm on. The only way that I'm moving is to upgrade. So all of this stuff I used to do, like sim linking and changing and tweaking when I first got in, is something that I don't have to do anymore, and I love not having to do it.
Very much agreed.
Yeah, I only do that on the main system. All the when I distro hop and stuff, I don't bother with all it because it's just gonna be a temporary tweak, temporary play around thing. With the distro hopping, but main system, I'll get it to where everything needs to be. And like Leo was saying, just bring all the back up all your files. That's why I have the file server. And I have everything. I back up everything there daily. So if I change something, get more music or photos, whatever, it goes back onto that system, backed up daily automatically from all the systems. And other than that, that way if anything happens, I don't lose any important documents.
So Rocco, sounds like you're fully recovered from distro hopping. Are you?
Have
you graduated? Are you leaving us?
I would say, just like with anything, there's always that temptation there, but I pretty much am done hopping, I think. Okay, so on the main machine, yes, I'm done hopping. I still test. I still do the testing on the other machines, but
okay, for the main machine.
Main machine, I'm done hopping, dude. I love playing around with Linux, and I love customizing it. But I love more having a stable machine.
Executive. So, what are you on now, Rocco? What did you stick with?
Pop OS.
It's still a Pop, okay.
Yep.
Nice. Can I ask a question? When it comes to these new releases, is it true that Deepin is trying to become an official flavor? And if so, what does like Alan and Martin feel about the addition of another environment and with all the flavors that are like making headway in these spaces? Just curious.
So there are currently 3 flavors that are bootstrapping or remixes that are emerging at the moment. There's Ubuntu Cinnamon. We spoke to Joshua earlier. There's Ubuntu Deepin. There's Ubuntu Lumina. And at some point, they will have to make an application to the Ubuntu tech board in order to request that they become an official flavor. And there is a process behind that, and there are certain commitments that they have to sign up to in order to sort of jump through those hoops of fire, which are the same hoops of fire that I jumped through 5 years ago, and more recently, David Mohammed, with the Ubuntu Budgie flavor jumped through as well. But it is excellent when we get new desktop flavors come into the Ubuntu family. And here's why. All of the flavors agree on something, which is we all love Ubuntu and we all want to build on and around Ubuntu. We just happen to have different opinions about how the desktop environment should be presented. But what that means is you have this diverse group of developers who all want to make interesting projects that are all doing it collaboratively and building around a single tool. And, that release that happened on Thursday now, any one of those flavors, any one of those community flavors, if we'd hit a blocker with one of those flavors, it would have stopped the whole release for Ubuntu and Ubuntu Server and Ubuntu Core and for mainframes and for the Raspberry Pis. So they're not like an afterthought or secondary. They are very much a fabric, part of the fabric of the Ubuntu project. But new flavors mean new developers, new desktops, more effort, more eyes, more quality. So if those projects want to join the Ubuntu project, then they can apply to the tech board and they will be judged on their merits, but they will be welcomed into the project, providing they're able to step up and do the things that they need to do.
It's also a more diverse community. Like you have diversity of opinions. It's not just one focus. It shall be GNOME and that's all it shall ever be. You've got people pulling in different directions and saying, well, we prefer it to look like this and we prefer it to look like that. And it appeals to a different set of people. Which I think is an appealing thing because I think it's good for us to have a diverse set of opinions in the project and not everyone just singing from the same hymn sheet.
And we saw the advantage of that, when Unity got deprioritized and Ubuntu pivoted to Ubuntu GNOME, there was a community and a group of developers that had been working on Ubuntu GNOME for several years. And they were able to, help and assist the desktop team make that transition to an entirely new desktop environment. So, there is value in having all of these options out there. And some of these desktop environments suit particular use cases. So, there are people out there that are using these different desktop environments because it suits a particular workflow or, technology sector.
Yep. I think what the best thing I see about it is, I have to say, is the communication like you have, Martin, with Joshua and with the other remixes, to not be distant from them and to encourage them. And, it's not like, it's this big fight to try to win over a spot on the Ubuntu flavor list. It's yes, they got to put in the hard work. Yes, they got to do it, but you're more than encouraging to them doing it. And that's good to see.
Yeah,
there's also there's a good reason for doing it. Like, look around the webcams in front of you. There are a lot of aging grey-haired men in here.
I don't know what you're talking
and
about.
We need to foster the newer, more excitable people who have time on their hands. Maybe they're students, maybe they're at university, maybe they've got holidays coming up and they've got their time rich. They don't have huge commitments, and also they don't have this legacy that we have in our heads of no, you can't do that, or no, we've tried that and it didn't work. They've got new and refreshing ideas, so why not embrace them into the project and have someone who can take over the reins when we all retire off or pop our clogs?
Yeah. And, Bill called out the blog post that Alan and I worked on this week to sort of celebrate everything that was new in Ubuntu Desktop 2004. And I started that by talking about, the origins of the project, the innovation that has happened in the industry as a whole off the back of, quality desktop Linux implementations existing. And the very fact that, part of the success of Ubuntu and its emergence into the mainstream is down to that community involvement. And that's why we continue to celebrate that today within the project, even though these are remixes that haven't yet made it into the project, but we want to help them be successful.
Yeah, I want to add on here just real quick. And this is specific to the 3 remixes that are, budding to become a flavor right now. I am super impressed with the collaboration from all 3 of them leading up to the release, and not just with their own projects, with all of the projects, because they put in time to test and give feedback on every flavor, not just theirs. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see the cross collaboration with all of the flavors, and I think this release I've seen much more, and it really is great.
Well, I'm excited about the deep in progress because I used when someone wanted to do like a Mac OS conversion, like where would they feel most comfortable, you should recommend like Elementary. But with Deepin in the mix, it could be a nice to have that in an Ubuntu family. So I'm excited about that and then that diversity. So it's pretty cool.
All right, Colin, you want to get in?
Yeah, I was just curious. Does every flavor of Ubuntu have to have a minimum amount of team members in them, or
no?
No. Okay.
What you have to do is you have to be able to demonstrate that you've had a sustained contribution to the project that you're working on, but more importantly, that you have an upstream connection and that you've demonstrated that you're able to maintain and support the desktop environment or the software that you're looking to build upon. So when I did this for Ubuntu Mate, I was making the application, and it was really making the application to the tech board, and it was really all on me at that point. There was a community of people that were helping me for sure, but I was the individual that was standing up and saying, I'm going to do this. Now, it's way better if you go into that with a team of people all saying, we're applying together to do this. That's a much stronger situation to be in than to apply as an individual and then coalesce, a community of developers around you. But the number of developers is not the measure of successful application. It's the commitment that and technical capability that you can demonstrate.
And in terms of demonstrating commitment for the community, you should know it's not a once and done thing, because I think it was either last year or the year before, Ubuntu Studio lost their lead and almost lost their status as a official flavor, and they had to scramble and basically reapply under the people that was still there. And I'm very grateful that they were able to do it and continue. But any flavor that you see has an ongoing commitment. It's not just that somebody made a commitment in the past. It's that there is current development, current support, a current team working on it.
Yeah. And all of the flavors have just had to reaffirm their commitment, because with an LTS, you'll probably be aware that Ubuntu has a 5-year support window. All of the flavors have a 3-year support window. Now, that's just because each of the flavors have said we can commit to 3 years of support. There is the option that the flavors can also commit to 5 years of support. But just think to yourself, what were you doing 5 years ago? You know, how have your circumstances changed in the last 5 years? Even thinking ahead, 3 years, can you really predict what your circumstances are going to be? And if you've got the time on your hands to support a bunch of people, and by a bunch of people, we're talking about hundreds of thousands or millions of people that are using the thing that you make. This is not, a decision to be made lightly. And, I was a bit gung-ho when I was doing this with Martel. I was like, yeah, sure, first LTS, we'll do 5 years. Of course we'll do 5 years. And then the community team took me to one side and said, here are all of the things you need to consider. And I decided that I was naive and stupid, and 3 years was the right answer. And that's what all the flavors, tend to subscribe to now.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in before we close?
Yeah, Rocco, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
So I know Kai and Josh. I don't know the person that's working on the Deepin project. But Dan said how much collaboration they had. And I saw them working every day together, talking about the fun they were having in Debian packaging. They were working really hard, and they are new. There are potentially going to be new flavors. If you're interested in using them and you like that desktop environment, reach out and talk to them. Offer to help, offer just to test, because this is not something like 2004 is released, everything's glory for any flavor or for anything, but for them especially. If you like that DE, consider reaching out and asking how you can help them. That way they can make those remixes very successful.
Yep. Anybody
I've
else?
just got one more question, Rocco.
Do it.
Is the cinnamon desktop, if that becomes an official flavor, will that also be pronounced Kubuntu?
No. So
Cinnabuntu.
Josh gets a bit beaten up about this because I told him no a while ago, and he keeps citing me whenever anyone asks. He says, "No, Popey told me no." So you can. So in the beginning, the Earth cooled and the dinosaurs came, and then there was Ubuntu, and after that became Kubuntu very soon after that with a K, right? And then XFC came along, Xubuntu, Edubuntu, Lubuntu, and then it got a bit daft, and there became lots of Buntus. And so the tech board, when they were deciding what are the rules for becoming a flavor, all the things that Martin has already spelled out, plus we need a better naming convention than just tacking a letter on the front of Buntu. And so, no, there are no more something Buntus. It's if you're not an official flavor yet, then you're Ubuntu something remix, so Ubuntu Cinnamon remix or Ubuntu DDE remix or something like that, so people know what to expect, because that's the thing. They need to know what the expectations are. Oh, this is a remix, it's not official, it's a community spin, if you like, of Ubuntu. But once you become a flavor, you could drop the word remix and call yourself something else. So that's why Ubuntu Mate is just called Ubuntu Mate. It's not called Ubuntu Mate Remix, because it's now an official flavor. And so that's the kind of path we lead people down. So there's some consistency and people know what the expectations are. But all the others got grandfathered in because they already existed.
Yeah, just like Ubuntu Budgie. Yeah.
Can you imagine the hype if it was called Ubuntu.
No,
it's a terrible name, isn't it?
It is terrible. It's terrible. I prefer Mate, mate.
All right. I would love to continue the conversation, but we are over time now as it is, and we still got to say goodbyes. So, thank you to all of the Ubuntu team, all of the devs behind Ubuntu, all of the flavors. You know, there was a picture up on Twitter. I forget who posted it, but it was I think it was the Ubuntu account that posted it. If you want to see the people behind what is made, and they posted a picture. I didn't know any of them as far as faces, and I didn't know any of the names, but it was awesome to see them, and I want to thank every single one of them.
I could tell you all of the names if you would
Let's
like
do
to
it.
know.
List all the names out.
Okay. We have Seb and Ken and Heather and Didier and Jean-Baptiste and Marco and Daniel and James and Robert and who am I missing?
Yourself?
Till,
yeah. Gosh, have we got everyone yet?
No, you're missing yourself.
Well,
it's
yeah,
gonna
I
be
don't
terrible
know.
if you've forgotten anyone, Martin.
I'm sure I have. It doesn't feel like a long enough list. I struggle each time I need to email all of them. The Ubuntu desktop team is like 14 people, just so you're aware. And that photograph is 17 people. And that's because it's the Ubuntu desktop team and friends. There's somebody there that used to be in the desktop team called Chris, who is now in the security team. I missed Olivier. Olivier's on the desktop team. And Marcus. I also miss Marcus as well. See, it's difficult, right? So there's 13 people on the desktop team. That's the core team, but then of course, you know, the project's bigger than that. So we rely on the work of the kernel team and the foundations team and the security team. And then there's a little bit of, you know, cross-team collaboration with, you know, the server team from time to time on stuff like file systems. But the team that we collaborate with most closely, that nobody really knows exists, is our Oem Delivery Team in Taipei. So they're the guys that work with all of the hardware vendors, and there are 52 of them. And all they work on is making Ubuntu work well on new gear from Dell, Lenovo, HP, and others. So when you buy your Ubuntu pre-installed, it was down to them. Or maybe you buy random ThinkPad and Ubuntu happens to work well on it, and that was them too. So, you know, they do a ton of work there. I think there's hundreds and hundreds. If you look up Ubuntu certified devices, you'll find a whole website that you can filter by manufacturer, desktop, laptop, server, and all the rest of it. You can find all of the places where Ubuntu is certified to work, and it will give you all of the information about what version of Ubuntu it was certified to run.
Well, we're not going to be able to name everybody, but it's awesome to be a part of it. And I do want to thank you as well, Martin and Alan, for all of the work you put into it. Bill, Dan, and everybody else that contributes to it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I forgot Laney.
There you go. All right, that's going to be it for us. We are going to try out Ubuntu proper this week, and we will talk about it next week, but it's definitely not going to be a go down the list thing. It'll be just a more relaxed session. All right, Dan, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, as always, and thanks to all the help from everybody else. And really enjoyed the discussion tonight. It was fantastic. I mean, it's good to follow along. So great to be here with everybody. Nice to see everybody doing well. So thank you.
I do want to mention that PZ and Eric Adams both were not feeling well tonight, so they are not here. So I wish them to get better soon. Popey, last word.
I'd like to thank you for having this, but also we are standing on the shoulders of giants, and I'd like to thank the Debian community, because without them, Ubuntu wouldn't exist, and for the Ubuntu flavor for the GNOME community for producing the desktop that we use on Ubuntu in front of millions of users. So thank you to them as well.
Well, there was a subject I wanted to talk about, and that was the survey results that we didn't get into, that we'll probably get into next week. And there was some interesting stuff in that. So we will definitely talk about that. Aris, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, and everybody who makes the stream possible. Also, thank you to all the developers of Ubuntu and all the flavors for providing a great service to everybody.
All right. Tony, last word.
Yes, it's installed.
I love you, man.
I'd just like to say, as always, thanks, Rocco, for doing this. It's great. It's been a really good one this week. I'd like to say thanks to Alan Pope and to Martin Wimpress and all of the Ubuntu people for a fantastic 2004 release. I'm now in my 6th week of being at home. I have another 2 weeks at least still to go. It's going to give me something to do to try all of these and try and decide which one I'm going to try and stick with for a while. At the moment, I'm jumping between Budgie and the base 2004, but I haven't even had a proper look at Ubuntu yet, so I don't know. I've even took a look at, I don't know whether you call it Kylin or Chilin, whatever it is, but the Chinese is a bit too difficult, so I'll give that one a miss. But everyone take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you all same time, same place next week.
Very nice. Dave Jones, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, for being a great host. And I want to thank Alan and Martin for and everyone else on the Ubuntus for all the hard work that you do. Martin, you're making this difficult, because ever since you released 1404 of Mate, that's been my distro, but the standard GNOME Ubuntu with GNOME it looks so good, and it works so well that I'm having a hard time really choosing between the two. So I really want to say thanks for the hard work.
I'm glad that you're presented with difficult decisions about which quality distribution you're going to use next.
All right, Big Pod, last word.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you to the Ubuntu team for making Ubuntu possible. Installed it on my main machine, so this we'll see how it will go.
All right, Tom, last word.
Just thank you.
All right, very nice. Dan Kelly, sir.
Rocco, thank you for putting on such a fabulous show. Thank all your helpers, too, that make the show possible. I want to really thank the Ubuntu team for making such an awesome distro with so many flavors. I also want to encourage Joshua to continue with his cinnamon project. It's actually usable as it is now. It just needs a few tweaks. And I'm sure it'll be a great addition to the Ubuntu family. And it's a whole different world out there these days, so be very safe and careful.
Yep.
Next.
Jason, last word.
And just like everybody else said, thank you, Rocco, and everybody else that helps out with the putting this on so that we can all get together and talk Linux. And thank you for the Ubuntu team for coming on here and giving us some more insights on your release, and also for all the work that you guys did and getting that release out so that we have something to look forward to and install. I'm not like Tony, I didn't get it installed quite yet. I get it downloaded, but it will go onto the computer right here this weekend.
I'm just glad the internet held out through the whole show. MC, last word, brother.
Hey, Rocco, I want to say thanks to you for putting this on and everyone who helps you get this going, and also to Popey and Wimpy for just being accessible. It's great hearing from these developers when they come on here and, spouting their wisdom in regards to what goes into putting, what goes into making Ubuntu what it is. And I think that's great, just being able to talk to them and listen to them in this environment.
All right. Esnix, last word.
Thank you, Rock, and everyone else. It's always a pleasure being here, and stay safe. God.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco and crew, for this space. Thank you all for being a family that I can actually speak geek with. And I want to thank all the developers on all the flavors of Ubuntu for so thoroughly destroying my ability to use the phrase "because Linux is supposed to hurt."
Can't say it anymore. Paul, last word.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Great show. Nice meeting you, Martin, and that other guy. Oh, Opie. Yeah, great show.
All right, Nate, last word, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me and letting me talk. I want to thank you, Alan and Martin, for all the work they've been doing on Ubuntu. Although I'm not an Ubuntu regular user, I really appreciate what they do. Snaps too, and just keep doing what you do, because it's great to see it, and I love the snapshot thing that you got that going in. So good times. So thank you.
Shocking that you're not a regular Ubuntu user.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems getting more and more. It's having more of the bits that I like. So I mean, it's getting tempting.
I see it intriguing. All right, Colin, last word, brother.
Yes, I'd like to thank Alan and Martin for being here, and the whole Ubuntu team. I think it's looking pretty good. Haven't really got around to it yet, but I'm looking forward to installing Ubuntu proper and giving that a go. Heard it's got snaps. And thank you, Rock and Co, for the platform here. It's great. Thanks. And stay safe, everyone. Have a good week.
All right, Leo, last word.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show again. I appreciate that, and thanks for the Ubuntu guys for being here. It's really a really good time chatting and just kind of hearing what they have to say. But I really wanted to say that the reason why I think Ubuntu will succeed is that they're so adamant about embracing the community, the flavors, and ultimately behind all that, the people, and that support. And I think Alan said it earlier, that standing on the shoulders of giants. Linux Mint wouldn't be possible without Ubuntu. So, my flavor of choice is that, and wouldn't be there if it weren't for all the work that the Ubuntu guys and the Debian guys and everybody else that's involved puts in. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Well said, Leo. Well said. Bill, last word.
I just want to thank everyone at Canonical for all this, everything that they do, everything they provide, and everyone in Ubuntu. I want to do a special shout out to Luke and Victor for all they do to help Ubuntu Mate be what it is. And remember, it's not user error, it's the new show. A new show, right?
The new show.
The new show. I'm sorry. I'll take that check whenever you want to get that to me.
All right. All right, Thomas, last word.
Well, thank you for having the show again this week. Thank you to all our medical workers right now on the front lines with this current health crisis. And thank you to everyone who works on Ubuntu, whether you work with Canonical or you work on one of the flavors or something in between. Just thank you in general, because Ubuntu and Linux is awesomer because of you. And catch you guys next week.
All right, the bearded wonder. Last word.
Thanks very much, Rocco. I think Leo stole my thunder. He said virtually everything I was going to say. But
it's because we're on the same show, man.
Yeah. Thanks to Alan and Martin for all the work you do. And like Leo said, Mint wouldn't be possible without it. And thanks to everyone who's here in this community. It's fantastic to be here. When I can manage to stay awake long enough to join you at 1 o'clock in the morning our time. So, thanks, Rocco. Thanks for putting on, and the rest of the crew that are involved.
All right, Wimpy, last word.
So I like to say that, all the people that work at Canonical, the thanks are well taken, but we are paid to work on this stuff. I would like to give my thanks to the army of translators, documentation writers, testers, QA people, bug triagers, all of those people that work on the flavors or maintain applications in the Ubuntu archive, because it's that army of people that that surround Ubuntu that makes the project successful. So I would like to say thank you to everyone that contributes to Ubuntu in a meaningful way.
Yep. Can you name them all?
No.
Okay.
There's far too many, but thank you all.
Steve, last word, brother.
All right. Thank you, Rocco, for always being such a gracious host. Thank you to Canonical for existing. Thank you for Martin and Alan for being such inspirations on how to be part of a community. And everybody take care and all this. When you go shopping and you see someone behind the clerk behind the counter, say thank you for being there. And I'll see you guys in less than 11 hours.
Coffee?
You bet.
Mm-hmm. All right, Larry Johnson.
Hey, great show. Really appreciate it. You doing this. Thank you, Linux developers. You make our Linux world go round and come a long way since Dapper Drake at first Ubuntu.
All right. Robin, last word.
Last word from me is thank you to everyone at the Ubuntu team and Canonical with the 2004 release. Fantastic job, well done. Of course, I've got to just say wishes to Eric and Zeb. Hope they get well and be back here next week in their chairs. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rocco. Another great show as always. And enjoy lockdown as much as you can do, because we always obviously do have day jobs, but in between that we do get to have a little play of Linux every now and then, which is fantastic. I will say I'm enjoying using it as a test as well, to see if I can use it full time as my day job as well, which is great. So thank you to everybody, and stay safe, and see you next week.
All right, Revenge, last word.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm sure I dipped up a bit. Thanks for putting on a good show as usual, and thanks to the Ubuntu devs, the main guys, and the people who are doing the flavors, even though I'm not an Ubuntu fan. And thanks to all the people who are keeping the world going around during this outbreak.
All right, very nice. Prophetic, last word.
Hey, so thanks, Rocco, again for an awesome show. Thanks for the Ubuntu guys. I just want to say thanks for everyone being here, because it's been a rough week, and shows like this is fun, but also you learn something too. So I'm excited to explore the .files and config managers out there and build on my knowledge. So it's fun, and you learn something here. So thanks a lot. And also quick shout out to Simon and the Ubuntu team. I lurk on their Telegram group. They're working really hard too. And it's so cool to see the landscape of Ubuntu family growing and making moves.
All right, Vince, first word and last word, sir.
Sorry, I didn't have much to say. In between my allergies and eating and listening to you guys, I've had the time of my life again. It's just been, first of all, a big congratulations to Ubuntu. And thank you to Rocco, Dan, and the team behind the scenes there. It just amazes me still every single time that we're able to get this tiny little window into the world of these distributions and how much they give to the community. Thank you so much, guys.
Kevin, last word.
Thanks everybody for showing up. I didn't have a whole lot to say tonight, but it was good hearing what everyone had to say. And I love Ubuntu, regardless of what Adam says about it.
Right. Adam Grubbs, last word.
Thanks for putting on the show. I'd like to say a preemptive thanks to the Fedora. No, I'm just kidding. Good job on the release for the Canonical guys. It's pretty awesome. I don't know. Everybody go upgrade.
There you go. Daniel, last word.
I just want to echo everybody else's thanks to Ubuntu, Rocco. Thanks for the show. Everybody stay safe. Thanks for showing up. This is just a great place to come hang out and just, talk nerdy with everybody and, just have some sort of semblance of community and with all the weirdness going on in the world. So everyone stay safe. I'm looking forward to giving Ubuntu a whirl this week. So, but everyone have a great week.
All right. I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up here because I can't find or even think about a better way to spend a Saturday night besides talking to you guys. This past week on Linux Spotlight, I got to talk with Shane Kitt of the Linux Labs podcast. And even though we had like major connection issues through the whole thing, it was a great conversation, and you should go listen to that. Next week, Wednesday at 6 a.m., I sit down with Alex Kretschmar from Self-Hosted and Jupiter Broadcasting. That will also have some audio issues, but not because of there was technical issues, but he was busy 3D printing parts for masks for relief. So that will have some audio background noise, but it's completely understandable. So check that out Wednesday. Other than that, I'm looking forward to checking out Ubuntu this week. And until next week, long live Linux.
See yous.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
That's awesome,
See you
Paul.
next week.
Stay safe.
Good night, everyone.